There is a right way and a wrong way to use rice as a soil amendment. And honestly, the wrong way is what most people are doing, based on the partial information circulating in gardening communities that has turned a genuinely useful biological technique into something that produces inconsistent results and sometimes even occasional soil damage. Rice in the garden is not a fertilizer myth. It is a real biological mechanism with real effects on soil, microbial communities, earthworm populations, and nutrient cycling efficiency. It is also a technique where the difference between the correct application and the incorrect application is large enough to determine whether you get meaningful soil improvement or, well, a sour anaerobic worm-repelling mess that takes weeks to recover from. The gardening content around rice as a soil amendment has spread faster than the specific technical details that make it work correctly, which is how you end up with a technique that some growers swear by and others dismiss as pseudoscience, both groups having had genuine experiences that reflect which version of the technique they actually used. What we're covering today is what the soil science actually says about how rice affects soil biology, the specific application method that produces the biological activation effects that proponents of the technique are reporting, the critical mistakes that convert a beneficial treatment into a harmful one, and the realistic expectations that prevent you from reaching for rice as a solution to soil problems it's not capable of solving. This is not a technique for dead or severely depleted soil. It is a technique for soil with an established biological community that you want to accelerate and amplify. Understanding that distinction before you bury a single grain really changes how you approach everything that follows. The mechanism by which rice affects soil biology is specific enough to explain both why it works when applied correctly and why it fails or harms when applied incorrectly. And, well, understanding that mechanism is the prerequisite for using it well. Rice, specifically cooked plain rice without seasoning, salt or oil, is a high-starch, rapidly decomposing carbon source. When buried in soil at the appropriate depth and quantity, it initiates a rapid microbial bloom, an explosive short-term increase in bacterial and fungal populations that are responding to the sudden availability of simple, easily metabolized carbon compounds. This microbial bloom is the mechanism behind every beneficial effect the technique produces. The blooming microbial community releases enzymes that accelerate the decomposition of other organic matter in the vicinity. The metabolic activity of the bloom generates mild heat that, warms the soil locally. The waste products of rapid microbial metabolism include compounds that are directly attractive to earthworms as food signals, drawing worms into the treatment zone from surrounding soil. And the fungal component of the bloom, specifically the white saprophytic fungal threads that appear visibly at the burial site within 4 to 7 days of application, produces the hyphal networks that begin binding soil particles into aggregates and extending the biological infrastructure that makes healthy soil physically different from dead soil. This mechanism explains why the technique works as a biological catalyst rather than a fertilizer. Rice does not directly supply plant nutrients in significant quantities. What it does is feed the microbial community that supplies plant nutrients through the natural cycling processes of decomposition and mineralization. You are not feeding plants. You are feeding the biology that feeds plants, and you are doing it with a rapid carbon source that produces a faster and more concentrated biological response than slower decomposing carbon sources like wood chips or cardboard provide. So the same mechanism actually explains why this technique fails when it's over-applied. The microbial bloom that rice initiates, well, it consumes oxygen really rapidly as those aerobic bacteria and fungi start to metabolize the carbon substrate. Now, in a soil with adequate drainage and enough pore space, this oxygen consumption is usually compensated by the diffusion of atmospheric oxygen through the soil profile. But in a soil where the application rate is high enough that the oxygen demand of the bloom actually exceeds the oxygen supply, or, where soil drainage is poor enough that water fills the pore spaces that would otherwise carry oxygen, the aerobic community gives way to anaerobic bacteria. And these anaerobic bacteria, they produce organic acids, ammonia, and hydrogen sulfide as metabolic byproducts. The soil starts to smell sour or even of ammonia. Earthworms, which are quite physiologically sensitive to these compounds and really do require dissolved oxygen for respiration, move away from the treatment zone rather than toward it. The beneficial effect, well, it actually reverses entirely, and the soil in the overtreated area ends up actively worse for a period than it was before treatment. The correct application method is honestly quite specific in its details, and each detail addresses a specific failure mode that the more imprecise versions of this technique tend to produce. The material itself is just plain cooked white or brown rice, no salt, no oil, and no seasoning of any kind. Salt disrupts microbial osmotic balance and, frankly, kills the beneficial community you're trying to feed. Oil creates a hydrophobic coating on soil particles, which interferes with water movement and blocks the air-water interface where aerobic microbial activity is usually concentrated. Brown rice decomposes just a bit more slowly than white rice due to its higher fiber content, which gives you a slightly longer bloom duration rather than a sharper, faster peak. Either works, to be honest, but the seasoning restriction is absolutely non-negotiable. Mixing the rice with a small handful of finished compost or worm castings before burial is the step that most informal versions of this technique omit, and honestly, it makes the most consistent difference in results. The compost inoculant introduces the specific microbial community that will colonize the rice substrate and drive the beneficial bloom. Without inoculation, the rice is colonized by whatever organisms are present in the immediate soil vicinity, which, in depleted or low biology soil, may not include the specific bacteria and fungi that produce the beneficial effects the technique is known for. But with inoculation from active compost, the bloom is dominated from day one by the organisms you want, rather than waiting for them to arrive from the surrounding soil biology. Burial depth of 2 to 3 inches places the rice in the zone of maximum earthworm activity and adequate oxygen availability simultaneously. Shallower burial exposes the material to surface drying and temperature fluctuations that disrupt the bloom. On the other hand, deeper burial reduces oxygen availability and increases the risk of the anaerobic conversion that produces the sour smell and worm-repelling conditions that over-application creates. Placement 6 to 8 inches from active plant root zones prevents the oxygen competition of the microbial bloom from affecting the root zone chemistry of plants that are actively feeding. Application rate of approximately 50 grams per square meter, which is roughly a small handful distributed across a square meter of bed area, is the benchmark that keeps the oxygen demand of the resulting bloom within the compensation capacity of a well-managed garden soil. At this rate, the bloom is significant enough to produce the worm attraction, enzyme release, and heat generation effects that make the technique worth doing, but not so concentrated that it overwhelms the oxygen supply in any localized area. The repeat cycle of every 10 to 14 days is the management rhythm that sustains biological activation rather than producing a single pulse followed by a return to baseline. Each application initiates a new bloom cycle in a slightly different area of the bed, progressively activating the full bed soil biology rather than repeatedly treating the same zone. Moving the application location around the bed with each cycle distributes the earthworm attraction effect, the enzyme release, and the aggregate building fungal activity through the full root zone over a season, rather than concentrating it in one spot. Rice water as a soil supplement is a related but distinct technique with different effects and a more modest benefit profile that is worth understanding separately from the buried rice method. Fermented rice water, produced by soaking cooked rice in water for about 24 to 48 hours until mild fermentation begins, is sometimes used as a microbial liquid supplement applied between burial cycles. The fermented liquid contains lactic acid bacteria and a range of other microorganisms that colonize the rice starch during fermentation, along with the soluble starch compounds and trace minerals that leach from the rice into the water. Applied to soil as a drench between burial cycles, rice water provides a liquid form of the microbial inoculant that the buried rice compost mixture delivers in solid form. Its effects are, measurably less dramatic than the solid burial method because the microbial populations it delivers are less concentrated. The carbon substrate they're attached to is already partially consumed, and the liquid application doesn't create the sustained local environment that the buried material does. It is a supplement, not a substitute. Used between burial cycles as a light maintenance input, it sustains microbial activity between the more significant biological activation events that the buried applications produce. Used alone as the primary technique, it produces modest and inconsistent results that explain why some growers who have tried rice water without the burial method report little or no benefit. The failure modes of this technique are worth knowing in detail because they appear quickly when they occur and require specific correction rather than waiting them out. The sour or ammonia smell that indicates anaerobic conditions in the treatment zone is the primary failure signal. It appears within 3 to 5 days of application in overtreated soil and is the olfactory equivalent of a red warning light. Stop all rice applications immediately when this smell appears. Do not apply more rice in an attempt to correct the problem. The correction is the addition of dry, high-carbon material, shredded cardboard, dry leaves or wood chips, to the affected area at a rate that will rebalance the carbon-to-oxygen ratio in the treatment zone and provide the physical pore structure that allows oxygen back into the soil profile. The aerobic community will re-establish within 1 to 2 weeks of the anaerobic conditions being corrected, and the earthworm population that dispersed from the treatment zone will return when the chemistry recovers. The expectation failure that produces the most frustration with this technique is using it as a solution to structural soil problems that it cannot address. Rice application to heavily compacted clay soil with drainage problems will produce the sour anaerobic failure mode reliably, because the drainage limitation means there is no oxygen compensation capacity even for modest microbial bloom oxygen demand. Rice application to severely depleted or chemically sterilized soil that has essentially no biological community will produce the slow, inconsistent results of an inoculant applied to a hostile environment rather than the rapid bloom that active soil produces. In both cases, the prerequisite work, drainage improvement for the compacted clay, foundational composting and mulching for the depleted soil, needs to happen before rice application can produce the results the technique is capable of generating. Used correctly in biologically active soil with adequate drainage at appropriate rates with proper inoculant and at the depth and spacing that maximize beneficial effect while avoiding anaerobic conditions, buried rice compost mixture is a legitimate biological activation tool that produces measurable improvements in earthworm density, aggregate structure development, and nutrient cycling efficiency over a growing season. It is not magic, and it is not a replacement for foundational soil management. It is a catalyst, and catalysts only work when the reaction they're catalyzing has something to work with. Give your soil the biology foundation first, then use rice to accelerate what's already there. Subscribe for the soil science that separates the techniques that work from the ones that sound like they should. See you in the next one.